Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to break down something that's honestly super important for India's economic future, and definitely a hot topic for your exams. District-level GDP. I mean, why does the economy of one single district matter so much for a giant country like India? Well, let's dive in and find out. So let's kick things off with this really powerful statement right from the top. This shows us that this isn't just some academic discussion, it's a huge national priority. The path to becoming a $5 trillion economy isn't just paved through big cities like Mumbai or Delhi. No, it runs through every single one of India's districts. All right, here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the big picture goal, then we'll unpack the current measurement systems, see why district-level data is such a game changer, look at the hurdles in our way, and finally, check out what the government is doing about it right now. It's a perfect way to structure your notes. Okay, let's start with that massive national ambition. Hitting a $5 trillion economy is a monumental task for sure. And the strategy to get there is shifting, moving away from a bird's eye view to one that's really focused on the ground level. And this really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. It's a basic rule of management. If you don't have the data, if you don't measure the economic pulse of a district, how on earth can you design policies that actually work for it? How do you know if a big national scheme is landing the same way in Warangal as it is in Varanasi? The simple answer is you don't. You're just guessing. So that leads to the big question. How does India actually measure its GDP right now? You might think it's pretty straightforward, but it's actually a mix of two completely different approaches. Okay, so this is where it gets really fascinating. For the primary sector, farming, mining, all that stuff, we use a bottom-up approach. We collect data at the local level and just add it all up. Makes total sense. But for manufacturing and services, the secondary and tertiary sectors, we use a top-down approach. We figure out the huge national number, and then we essentially estimate how it's spread across the districts using various indicators. And that is where the problems really begin. You see, this top-down way of doing things has some pretty big flaws. The problem is it kind of assumes all districts are the same, which leads to these generic, one-size-fits-all policies that, well, don't really fit anyone perfectly. It completely misses what makes a district's economy unique, especially the huge unorganized sector. And it really muddies the connection between GDP growth and whether people are actually getting jobs on the ground. Let me give you a perfect real-world example of this. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Statistics, or MoSPI, used its standard top-down model. But the UP government pushed back, saying, hold on, your numbers are way off. The model basically assumed UP's economy took the same hit as other highly industrial states, but it totally missed a really critical detail about UP's economy. And here's why. It's this one number, 25%. A full quarter of UP's state economy comes from agriculture, and that's a sector that was, relatively protected from the lockdowns. The top-down model just couldn't see this nuance. It completely skewed the picture of what was really happening on the ground. A perfect case for why we need a bottom-up approach, right? Okay, so if top-down is the problem, what's the fix? Well, it's all about getting that granular district-level data. And this brings us to a really important concept, the District Domestic Product, or DDP. So what exactly is DDP? In the simplest terms, it's just the GDP of a single district. It's a direct measurement of all the economic value being created right there. Think of it like this. It's like going from a blurry, low-res satellite image of India to a crystal-clear, high-definition map of every single neighborhood. And the payoff for doing this? It's huge. DDP gives real power to local governments, which is a huge part of what we call fiscal federalism. It means we can create policies that are tailor-made for what a district actually needs, so we're not wasting resources. It helps make sure that performance-based grants, like the 15th Finance Commission talked about, go to the right places. And most importantly, it helps ensure that even the most underdeveloped districts are part of the growth story. And get this, the return on investment is just mind-blowing. For every $1 you put into building these data systems, you get back an estimated $32 in development benefits. That's not just a good investment, it's an absolute no-brainer. Okay, but let's be real. If this is such a fantastic idea, why haven't we fully done it already? Well, like any big, important change, there are some serious roadblocks to getting accurate DDP estimates for all 700-plus districts in India. All right, for all you exam aspirants out there, here's a little trick to remember these challenges. Just think of the mnemonic fills P, kind of like how the new data fills the policy gap. So FILSP stands for financial, informal, lack of standardization, statistical fragmentation, and political hurdles. So let's quickly break that down. F is for the sheer financial cost. Building this kind of system isn't cheap. I is for India's massive informal sector, which is just notoriously difficult to measure accurately. L is for the lack of a single standardized way to do this that everyone in the world agrees on. S is for statistical fragmentation. The center, the states, different ministries all collecting data differently. And finally, P is for the political hurdles and administrative red tape that can cause all sorts of delays. But here's the good news. Despite all those challenges, the government is actually making some big moves. And that brings us to our final section, MoSPI's actual plan to build this bottom-up future. So the really exciting part here comes down to two absolute game changers, a couple of new and revamped surveys. First, there's ASUSE, which looks at the unincorporated sector, all those MSMEs and household businesses. Then there's the PLFS, which tracks the labor force. And here's the kicker. ASUSE is now quarterly and PLFS is now monthly. When you put these two together, MoSPI itself says this high-frequency data is going to be extremely useful for finally building that reliable, bottom-up DDP we've been talking about. And we're not just talking theory here, we've got an actual timeline. Starting January 2025, these surveys will finally be able to produce district-level estimates. That is a huge, huge deal. And looking just a little further ahead, January 2026, we'll see the launch of another key survey, the SA, which is all about the service sector. This data revolution is happening right now. Phew, okay, we've covered a ton of ground, right? From the big national vision all the way down to the nitty-gritty of data collection. So let's boil it all down to the absolute key takeaways you need to have locked in. All right, this slide is basically your ultimate cheat sheet. So listen up. First, the goal, that 5 trillion economy. And the key to it is a bottom-up approach. The current system is that flawed mix of top-down and bottom-up. The solution is DDP, which powers up fiscal federalism. Don't forget the Uttar Pradesh case study. It's the perfect example of the problem. Remember the challenges with our mnemonic? FILS, P? The way forward is through those two big surveys, SA and PLFS. And lock in those dates. January 2025 is when we start getting district estimates. And finally, remember that incredible ROI. $32 back for every $1 spent on data. So, I want to leave you with one final thought. This whole shift, it's not just about economics and spreadsheets, it's about governance. Just imagine, when districts have cold, hard data to back up their plans and prove how well they're doing, how could that fundamentally change the power dynamics in Indian federalism? It's a shift that's about so much more than just the numbers. Something to really think about. Thanks so much for joining me.